All right, what's going on, everybody? So it's been quite a while since I made a video about the whole Legacy GT thing. I've just been kind of focused on trying to actually get everything together. It's been a really long process. So the last video, all we did was torque on the cylinder heads, and so behind the scenes, I've just been kind of chipping away at this thing, one little thing at a time. I got my new Gates timing belt put on. I just threw the timing covers back on, all that stuff. My intake manifold was pretty much all complete, so I just basically set it down on here and bolted it back down. One thing I don't think I talked about was my turbo was actually bad from all the metal going through it. I don't know if the turbo killed the motor or the motor killed the turbo. Doesn't really matter. I had a bunch of in and out shaft play. So what I did is I found a company in the UK that makes high quality cartridges, brand new. So I bought a new cartridge and put the housings on it real quick. The company is this right here, Mellet Turbos. So these pretty high quality unit. Actually, it's not just some eBay cheap cartridge that's going to blow up. This is like OEM quality, but for a lot cheaper than the OEM price of like $1,000 for a turbo. So got that all bolted on. I already had the exhaust and all that stuff all together, so it really wasn't much to show you guys. It's just kind of putting everything back on the motor. So I just kind of skipped all that because there's not really much to see. So at this point, I went through and I hooked up all my little sensors. I'm leaving my fuel injectors unplugged, but everything else is hooked up. So I got my cam sensors hooked up. I took these out and cleaned them really well because there was metal in these. Oh, the other main thing that was a big hang up for me was these cam gears. So these are the AVCS cam gears that came on the motor. These are actually not a serviceable part from Subaru. They have a special security bit key to take them apart. These are obviously filled with oil, so when you spin a bearing, this is going to have a ton of metal shavings in it. So I was going to try to take it apart, but there's actually a seal inside here that's like the shape of this outside piece that you can't buy. I think I could get one out of Russia, but it's not a serviceable part from Subaru. They want you to buy all new cam gears. So that's why it's been taking so long to get this together, is I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because these cam gears are about $200 a piece. So I finally just bit the bullet and I bought 2 brand new cam gears. These are the original ones. Once I got them in the mail, I just threw it all together with the new timing belt. So this thing is completely fresh and ready to go. I even put my oil separator plate on back in there. Everything's pretty much ready to put it in the motor, or put it in the car. So that's what we're going to do today, is actually install this finally into the car, and we'll get to hear how it runs. So here is the car. She's been sitting for quite a while under the tree. Needs a good bath, but I cannot wait to actually drive this thing. I've had it for about 6 months, I think. 6-7 months it's taken me to rebuild this engine. This thing was a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be when I got into this project, but we need to put the motor in and give it a good bath, and we can maybe go on a test drive, but that might be for tomorrow. But at least today we need to get this motor in here. All right, finally got it off the stand, got it up on our engine hoist here. I chose to leave the manifold and everything on it while I'm doing this, just because there's so many little like hoses and things all inside here to hook up that are a lot more difficult in the car. So I just gave my chain enough slack so it doesn't touch the manifold, and it should be good. I just finished tapping in the rear main, make sure that's perfectly straight. I had to replace one of these studs here, so it actually has both studs now. So next we got to put the clutch on, and then the little plate that goes on underneath here, it's like a little dust shield. We can see our nice new nitrated crankshaft in there. Man, this thing has been quite the project. Rebuilt heads and everything. Man, this thing is a lot of work. So let's get the clutch on, and then we can try to get it back in the car. Okay, so here we have our Exedi HD clutch. So this is essentially like a slightly upgraded stock clutch. Exedi is the OEM brand for Subaru, so it's a very expensive unit. Very nice to have something this good, you know, on here. I'm not using any kind of cheap stuff for this car, so definitely glad to have this thing. I'm going to put a little bit of thread locker on the bolts. I don't typically do that, but this motor, I'm setting this up to never have to come back out, at least for another 100,000 miles. So I want to make sure that these bolts are good for the next owner. So let's pop this flywheel on. We'll put the bolts in with a tiny bit of thread locker and clean it again. Okay, so got my little bit of Loctite on there, just a tiny bit, a little drip. Now we're going to torque these in a star pattern to 55 foot-pounds. There's a little hole right there on the side, so you can stick a screwdriver in there to hold it still, and just torque them up. All right, the engine's in. I've just been working on kind of hooking everything back up, put my exhaust on, all the bell housing bolts with the starter, hooked up the slave here. So that's all good to go. I just got my motor mounts on. I'm gonna start hooking up the power steering and all this kind of stuff. So luckily I got all the stuff hidden in the trunk back here. So I'll start putting all this back on, like the intercooler and the radiator and all the fans and everything. Okay, so we got pretty much everything back in here. Just got everything hooked back up. I got my brand new battery hooked up. Put some conventional 530 in it. So now it's time to crank it. I still have the injectors unplugged, so it's not going to start. So we could just crank it, make sure the oil light goes out so that everything gets cycled through, and then we can actually start it. Okay, we're in here. Let's see what happens. Clutch. Let the starter cool off. And it's supposed to use it for like 15 seconds. Alright. We got our coolant bleeding. Everything sounds great. To top off the oil, it took about 6 quarts just because everything's dry, but man, everything sounds awesome. No lights, no weird sounds. I still gotta get a new tensioner bracket because the bracket, the little pulley for the AC is broken. So we gotta get a new one of those. But yeah, let's we're gonna let her warm up and maybe take her for the first test drive. All right, guys. So we're gonna go for a little test drive. So let's see how this thing goes. So far, so good. Put some gas in it, and no check engine lights, nothing like that. So let's see how she does. Man, I can't see anything. Well, the brakes are a little grindy, because I think they're pretty rusty from it sitting for so long, but oh yeah. Clutch works great. Oh man. Honestly, it's gonna be it's pretty tough to sell this thing after, you know, all the work we put into it. You know, it's been about a 6-month ordeal or whatever to bring this car back to life. So the previous owner, you know, spun the bearing in the engine, which is pretty common on these 2.5s. So I picked it up for cheap, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to rebuild one of these. I've always wanted to rebuild an STI engine, because most of my experience is with the older phase 1 stuff. So I definitely jumped on it. It was one of those spur of the moment, you know, Facebook Marketplace buys, but it was definitely worth it. Overall cost was pretty expensive. This engine was about twice as expensive as the oh god damn it, the freaking mount fell over. Anyway, this is not working. So, fucking hell. Okay. Sorry, lost you there for a second.
But yeah, I just wanted to put it into perspective a little bit. I added it up, and the total build cost for this, not including like my own labor, it was pretty expensive. It was about $4,000 to rebuild this motor. So if you're doing it yourself, you know, you could probably cut a little bit of corners, and you know, I had to like bore out the cylinders and do all the crazy stuff that you guys saw in the videos. Sometimes that's not really the case. You can kind of just you know, keep the same stock pistons and kind of do stuff like that. But this one needed a lot more work than other people might have to do, so keep that in mind. But it's about a $4,000 engine rebuild if you did it yourself. That's you know, if you were to pay a shop to do that, I mean, you're probably looking at least $2,000 or $3,000 in labor just for the hours put in. So keep that in mind, you know, and that's why these cars are expensive. You know, they do, you know, have issues. They blow up sometimes, but I think they're worth it. They're great cars. If you take care of them, you know, that's the thing, is this one was a little bit neglected. The guy probably didn't change his oil, so you know, that's kind of what you get if you neglect a car. Any car will spin a bearing. It's not just a Subaru thing, but this one only has 109,000 miles on it, and now it has a new lease on life. You know, it's got a brand new engine, so whoever buys this thing will get, you know, a really nice daily driver. This is like the luxury. It's like a luxury WRX. So yeah, I'm definitely glad I did it. I'm not going to be making a huge profit by trying to flip this thing. That was kind of the whole idea to buy it, was to flip it and make some money. But I mean, I pretty much am just going to get a portion of the labor I put into it back out of it. So if you're looking to like flip a car, if you can get these for about $1,000, you might be able to actually, you know, flip it and make some money. But for me, this wasn't really too big of a profit thing. But we got to save a car that was probably going to get parted out, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's going to be it for the Legacy GT build. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you got some useful content out of it. I know I had a lot of fun rebuilding this thing. It was a blast. So now I'm going to be selling this thing to hopefully fund my next project. That was sort of the plan. So we're going to be STI swapping another Legacy, so keep an eye out for those videos. But I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.